ready?
Who is the man that would risk his neck for his brother, man?
Shit. Hey, think you could tell us what to do? You think you could tell us what to wear? You think that you're better?
Right on. They say this cat is a bad mother. I'm talking about shit.
Well, you better get ready. Bow to the masters. Break it down!
He's a complicated man, but no one understands him but his woman.
Are you ready?
Who is the man that would risk his neck for his brother, man?
Shit. Hey, think you could tell us what to do?
Hey, what's going on, y'all, man? This is your host, Shake Money, and you are in the blender with me, Shake Money, your host. I just got I have a great show for you tonight. This is going to be the first season of In the Blender with Shake Money, where we're going to discuss why you became a Dolphin fan, your greatest moments as a Dolphin fan, and at the end, you are going to build your ultimate team of Miami Dolphins. But before we get to our wonderful guest, Pam, I got a little bit of news I want to bring out. And what's going on, chat? How y'all doing, man? Hey, man. We hired Vic Fangio finally, and he was the head coach of the Denver Broncos and DC of the Chicago Bears. And I just want, being that we hired defensive coordinators, I wanted to take a step back and look at a past few defensive coordinators that we had in the Miami Dolphins. And I would love to have some participation here. Now, I'm going to name off a few. You guys give me, on a scale of 1 through 5, put it in the chat. What did you think of this defensive coordinator? 5 being good, 1 being not so good. All right, first we're going to go off with Josh Boyer. Put in the comment section, what did you think of Josh Boyer, 1 through 5? All right, we got a 3. Anybody else? 1 through 5, what you think of Josh Boyer? And then we got Patrick Graham. What do you guys think of Patrick Graham? Yeah, he was the defensive coordinator right before. We also had Vance Joseph, Matt Burke, Kevin Coyle, Mike Nolan, Paul, I'm not even trying to pronounce the guy's name, Don Keepers, Richard Smith, Jim Bates, which was my personal favorite, and George Hill. Those are just some of the defensive coordinators that we've had since 1999, bro. We've had a slew of defensive coordinators up in here. But at any rate, that's the news for now. Listen, one last thing I'm gonna bring up. I just thought, this isn't Dolphins related, but I thought it was interesting that the Colts hired the offensive coordinator. By the way, thank you, DTA, I'm glad you like the soup. Shout out to DTA. I just thought it was funny that the Colts hired the Phillies offensive coordinator. And if you think about it, after the Colts the Philadelphia Eagles won their first Super Bowl, they hired their offensive coordinator as well. So it seems like every time the Eagles go to a Super Bowl, the Colts are hiring the offensive coordinator. And then Philly, ironically, when they fired Doug Peterson, they hired the Colts offensive coordinator. But like I said, man, I like to give some shout outs real quick. Of course, King DTA, what's going on? Bleezy, West Side, Andres Negron, what's going on? Cairns, Dolphins 89, my Cuban brother, Luis Amador, Iceman. Can't forget, let me see. I can't forget G's in the building. And my Gator brother, Von Joe. I appreciate all of you guys for coming through in my inaugural episode, man. I hope the audio is fine. I hope you guys can hear me well. You know what I mean? So, anyway, with I wanted to start off my show with a bang. And who better than the first lady of this Dolphins community than the great Pamela, my Gator sister. What's going on, Pamela?
Hi, everybody. How's it going, Jakes? Congratulations on your first show. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. I'm glad to have you on. So you're from Florida, right? Correct?
Born and raised.
Yeah, and you're also a dance instructor as well, right?
My whole life, pretty much, yeah. Since I had my first class I taught in 1973. Woo!
Yeah, man. And one of the reasons I bring this up is because when I was watching your streams, you have an eye for whoever is doing a false start. You kind of see that. Some of the referees don't see it, of course, but you actually see the false starts before it happens. What goes into that?
So when I am watching my dancers to train them, I'm not actually looking at a student. I'm looking in the mirror and watching for anything to just catch my eye that's wrong. So they used to complain a lot. How come you always see what we do wrong and not what we do right? It's because I needed to train my eye in order to make them the best that they could be. So when the guys are lined up, I can see just a slight movement. And like you said, but a lot of times the referees don't see it. And it's clear to me it's a false start. I rewind it, double check, do little videos. I got to have my proof.
Yeah. And speaking of which, that reminds me, I remember Kim Bocamper, one of his funny stories to tell about Don Shula was, hey, Don Shula, I do some good plays. Why don't you say that? No, my job is to correct the bad plays. Your job is to make the good plays.
That's right. And I would always, give them good feedback when something was over. But when we're in there working, it has to be to correct. And that's what, the coaches need to look at. We don't need to give these players attaboys all the time. We need to go, nope, this is where you messed up.
Exactly. So what made you a Dolphin fan?
So honestly, I do not have a memory of not being a Dolphin fan. I can't remember. So I was born in 1960, and the Dolphins were born in 1966. And from the time I can remember, I've been a Dolphin fan. And if you were from Florida, the only team that was around was Miami Dolphins. And I've loved football my whole life. So to me, it's like breathing. It's the same as eating. It's just part of who I am, being a Dolphin fan.
Okay. That's what's up, man. Hey, a lot of people are like that, but you have any other favorite sports outside of football? Obviously, you have one of the.
Of course. Yeah, the Florida Gators, just the same way my dad graduated from the University of Florida with an engineering degree in the 50s. So that was just something I was raised on, being a Florida Gator. It's the same as being a Dolphin fan. Um, Although I think with the Dolphins, like the fan group, especially recently because of all the Twitter spaces and the YouTube podcasts, we're able to communicate, I think, more. And I know it's out there with the Gators, but I don't think I'm as involved
Yeah.
with all that as I am with the Dolphins.
And so no basketball, no other sports besides football?
I like sports, like my kids play baseball. So if I went to a baseball game, I like it. The problem is I'm a little too rowdy for a baseball game.
Yeah, I understand. Oh, trust me, I watch your streams. I know.
They'll have the organ music and stuff at a baseball game. That's not quite my style, but I enjoy sports in general. I used to watch tennis and but I'm so consumed by football, and I feel like um football is year round, the way everything is. Like, we all talk stuff out all the time, and who we're going to draft, who's going to be the coach. And I feel like it's year round, although I do get really jonesing for football when it's not football season.
And that's what I'm trying to do here, man. By the time it's episode, I'm doing like 20 episodes. So by the time it's 20 episodes, we get to episode 20, football is going to be back in the horizon. You know what I mean?
And we weren't so deprived of it because we have your podcast and Larry's and all these different people. I love the Twitter spaces. I love all the guys out there, you guys out there right now. I mean, it's amazing. I love it. You guys are my dudes.
So let me ask you this. I'm a wine enthusiast, as you know what I mean, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had this, like a lot of people say the 2008 was their Cabernet vintage, their favorite vintage for Cabernets, or 2012 was their favorite vintage for Chiantis. What would be your Dolphins vintage? Your favorite year as a Dolphin fan, would you say? If you had to point one, just name one year that kind of stood out to you.
It would definitely be the Dan Marino eras. That all that time when you start bringing in Clayton and Duper, OJ McDuffie. I mean, some of these players, and of course the defense in the 90s. You look at Zach Thomas, you look at Jason Taylor, and then you move forward and you look at Cameron Wake. I love defense. I probably like defensive players better than offensive players, especially in the last 20 plus years. The defense, our defense has been our bread and butter.
Okay. So
I can't narrow it down. It's like, who's your favorite child?
Yeah. So would you say, I would say 1984 maybe?
Definitely really good. I remember watching Dan, in the Super Bowl against San Fran. I was so mad. I'm pitching my little fits there because we weren't winning and all that. But he was a rookie. It was so exciting watching him. And then, of course, what he grew into be. It was pretty amazing.
Meaning that you saw Dan Marino as a rookie, do you remember the when he supposedly, from what I heard, he requested a trade, and Don Shula was like, "No, that's not going to happen." Do you remember anything about that?
I don't. I was probably in rose-colored glasses as a Dolphin fan. I don't recall that, but I probably don't remember what I did yesterday. So
Fair. fair statement. One thing I do know about Don Shula was if you look at all his old footages, he was the only coach on the sideline that didn't have his earphones.
Right. I think he was just so plugged into the game. Like his eyes told him what he needed to know. He didn't need all that extra stuff. He was old school. He just was plugged into the game. He knew what he had to have. I mean, he was just amazing. And to me, the greatest coach of all time, for sure.
For sure. That's what's up, man. All right. Now we're going to do a little numbers game here. All right.
Okay.
The chats, you guys give me a number to 1 through 99. Come on. Somebody give me a number to 199. And then whatever the number they give me, you think of the first player that comes to mind. If you could say pass, if you can't think of a number, just say pass. Number 91.
Oh damn! You asking me numbers?
Yeah.
Which defensive end? Not. That wasn't Cameron Wade.
Yes, correct.
Cameron Wade. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
How about number 24? Like I said, if you don't think of it, just pass. You can't.
Well, I'm gonna have to pass like all the time because I've got a few numbers emblazoned in my brain.
All right. How about
maybe Ronnie Brown? Was Ronnie Brown 24? Ronnie Brown. Oh, see, I was close though.
All right, 34.
No, 34. That's definitely run, Ricky, run. Definitely run, Ricky, run.
99.
That's JT all day long.
And I'm gonna throw you another softball. 54.
Oh, of course, that's Dak Thomas. I have 3 of his jerseys. I have one of the Navy installments. They only did that like one time. That is my favorite jersey, and it's kind of worn out because I've worn it a lot.
How about 88?
88. Well, that's going to be my man. That's going to be Gesicki.
Yeah, but in my opinion, when somebody says Dolphins 88, it's always, in my opinion, it's always going to be Jim Bandage, the great Jim Bandage.
See, you're just asking my brain now. I think there's smoke coming out of my ears a little bit because I just don't retain that kind of stuff that well. But no, you're right. That's a great number.
It is. I know he wasn't the standout player how most people.
No, he was just solid. Like always did what he was supposed to. Right? He always made the play. He was always in there doing what he was supposed to do. He didn't know. He was. I mean, just solid. And isn't that all we want from our players now? Just be solid. Do your job.
Yeah, do your job. Exactly. And he was part of the 72 undefeated season, right?
Yes.
Jim Mandich. I'll tell you what, man. I'm a radio person, and Jim Mandich was a great. Not only was he a radio person, but he was, in my opinion, the best color commentator. I remember watching Dolphins game and putting the TV on mute just so I could hear his broadcast.
Right. Yeah, the radio guy. You never want anybody to tell you have a face for radio, but he was a great radio guy.
I always wanted him to be the Dolphins head coach after Shula because he was one of those no nonsense type of guys. I think he would have been the type of person to tell you what you needed to hear instead of what you wanted to hear.
Well, and isn't that kind of where we've gotten with a lot of players? Like we really have. I mean, I understand. Like I do feel like, and of course, here goes the name that ruins it all. But Tua, I do feel like, he went through as much as any, and not just player, but just any personality I've ever seen. And so to me, that was an excuse for him. But it's not an excuse now, and everybody needs to be told A lot of these guys, they get money and they get people around them that are yes people. And what you need is your real friends telling you the truth, not a yes person.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you before we close it up. I like to do this thing. I don't know if, like I said, you have a memory issue. So, but you got your husband with you. He can help you out. Now, I like to build. I'm doing this thing where we build the ultimate Dolphins team. Okay.
Oh, wow.
All right. We could do it easy. I have two levels. Easy is I'll the offensive line. I'll let you choose the decade offensive lineman. The 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s.
Okay.
And then 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, a quarterback, and then defense will be 2 defensive tackles, 2 defensive ends, a linebacker, middle linebacker, 2 outsides. It's kind of like a 4-3 scheme.
Right.
You think you could do that, or?
I can come close. I mean, I can name, who I think should be in there. I definitely think the offensive line from the 80s.
Okay,
80s, early 90s for the offensive line.
O-line
okay. Quarterback, 100%. Of course, we know it's going to be Dan.
Oh, I thought it was Jay Fiedler?
Actually, I thought Jay Fiedler was a decent quarterback, and I might take a lot of heat from that, but what's that?
Pat White? No Pat White?
No Pat White. No. There's a whole bunch of them. Ray. No. So Fiedler, I actually thought was a pretty decent quarterback. I don't think the fans hated him. Most fans, he just got booed all the time. But I think he was decent.
He's kind of a poor man's Fitzpatrick.
He is. And speaking of Fitzmagic, I mean, geez, I wish we had him the end of this season, right? Like, I think he could have.
Especially with Hill and Waddle, chucking it up was his thing.
Oh my gosh! And those guys are going to come down with the ball.
Who are your 2 running backs?
You got to say Ricky.
Okay.
But I also think you got to go way back. What about either Mercury or
Kim?
Yeah, he's saying Jim Kick, but I was also thinking let's go with Ricky and Mercury Morris. Mercury. Yeah, you're thinking of he lives here. He lives right around here. Anyways, so wide receivers, there's no better duo than the Marks brothers. No better duo. And for y'all that did not get to see that, they talk later in years about the greatest show on turf. That was well after the original greatest show on turf with Marino and Clayton and Duper. You'd be in the stadium and all the fans going. It sounded like people were booing, but they weren't. It was Duper. I mean, it was amazing. I sat many times on the field cheering for those guys. Love, love, love. Then your defense, I'd have to spread it all around, right? So,
one tight end.
A tight end. No. No. I mean, I think he's that talented. I don't think he's been used right, but I wouldn't say Gesicki for a tight end. I would say more like man, there were so many good ones. We had good tight ends.
Randy McMichael, who's a good one.
I liked Randy McMichael a lot. OJ McDuffie? No, he's wide receiver. No, I loved him. Oh yeah,
So,
I can't.
how about Jim Mandich?
Well, I mean, absolutely old school. Jim Mandich gonna come down with the ball. That guy,
All right, I'll
he
put
was
him in that.
mean on the field, right? He was mean. He was good.
Okay, so now defense.
So defensive guys, I have to take a look at Incognito. I mean, Richie Incognito was
What was
that
he
guy.
offensive line? He was
What's
offensive line.
that?
He was a guard. Is it
Yeah,
incognito?
yeah,
Was he a guard? I'm talking
yeah.
about defense now.
Yes, defense. Richie Incognito was just bad to the bone. The way his career ended in Miami was horrible. It was
No, no,
horrible.
he was an offensive lineman.
Richie Incognito?
Yeah, he was an offensive lineman.
Yeah, yeah.
But we're talking about defense now.
Okay,
Defense.
defense. No,
Oh, defense.
I just had to
Okay.
get Richie Incognito in there because
Okay, I'll put him in the lineup as far as
the offensive line.
okay.
So defense. So definitely I'm going with JT.
Jason Taylor.
Yes. Zach Thomas. I'm going with I actually loved Ndamukong Suh. I liked how mean he was on the field. I liked of course Cameron Wake. I love Christian Wilkins. So you got to come forward to this century and talk about Christian Wilkins. You have to talk about
Okay, linebackers. Now you got two outside linebackers.
so Zach was middle linebacker,
Yes.
right? Middle linebacker, and JT was a outside linebacker, right?
He was a defensive end.
Defensive end. Sorry, defensive end. Right.
He played both.
He did. Oh my gosh. He was so fun to watch. I know a lot of people, are too young to have actually watched him play, but when he would, oh man, Zach Thomas though to me was the epitome of a Miami Dolphin defensive player. And if you can go back and watch the first time Peyton Manning was on the field against the Miami Dolphins defense, they showed the camera looked at Peyton Manning's eyes and looked at Zach Thomas because Zach Thomas had a bead on him. And Peyton looked shook. I've never seen him look like that since, but that first play against the Miami Dolphins, he was scared. And he should have been because Zach came for him. It was great. So safeties, I think our safeties are definitely the coaches we have right now. Sam Madison, he always played touchy, right? He would always go in there. I'd get so mad because he'd get a penalty, but he also just went for the ball. He was amazing. And also, if I have to think about, well, I look at our safeties now. We've been stretching for a while, right? I can't go anywhere near. It'd have to be.
Quarterbacks would be Sam Madison and Patrick Surtain. Would you say?
Yes, our coaches now. Yep, those two guys right there are amazing.
Okay.
And they were wonderful to watch play. That's why I feel good about them being coaches because I feel like, they know what it is to play tight and they know how to.
Hey, Sam Madison was part of the Giants team that stopped the undefeated season for the Patriots.
Oh yes, absolutely.
So
And speaking of undefeateds, it's the Miami Dolphins with the history of taking out, undefeated teams or teams that we're not supposed to win. We have that history. So I love that.
Right. Now all we need is 2 safeties and 2 outside linebackers.
Safeties, safeties.
All right, let's think. Let's. I'm going through the chat here, and we got Brock. They brought up Brock Marion, Rashad Jones.
Well, Rashad,
Bell.
man, you can't. I mean, Rashad, he was the man when he was on the field.
Yeah.
If he'd get on the field, and Brock Marion was definitely one of my favorite players. Loved Brock Marion.
Okay, Brock, and then Jones, and then finally we need the 2 outside linebackers. Anybody have thoughts for
Outside linebackers. So what are y'all thinking?
Kimbo Campbell?
Anderson from the 72s. Anderson. Bo Camper. Well, I mean, the Killer Bees. That was just, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That was fun to watch. The Killer Bees. To have that whole nickname, the Killer Bees. But yeah, Anderson from the 72s.
Nick Scott, somebody brought up.
Scott. Nick Scott. Yeah, that's what my husband's saying too. He's saying Nick Scott. Yep. Oh, Jake Scott. Jake.
All right, we'll do Jake Scott, and we need one more, and then your team will be complete.
One more.
What's that?
One more. Oh, Joey Porter. I see that, Larry. Yes, yes. Joey Porter with the kick. I loved that. Didn't his son also play and do the kick? Do you know what I'm talking about? The kick?
Yeah. When he
did that kick on the ground after he nailed somebody. I just loved that. I loved his attitude. He had tons of attitude.
So let's recap your team here. You
Okay.
have your 80s offensive lineman with a touch of Richie Incognito, Dan Marino, Ricky Williams, Mercury Morris. You have the Marks brothers and Jim Mandich as your tight end. Your defensive ends are Jason Taylor, Cameron Wake, Ndamukong Suh, and Wilkins as your defensive tackles. Your linebackers are Porter, Zach Thomas, and Jake Scott. Your safeties are Brock Marion, Rashad Jones, and your cornerbacks are Sam Madison and Patrick Surtain. Sounds like a solid.
I'm telling you what, you take that team, I dare somebody to come up with a better one.
Well, yeah,
I dare you.
Yes. Of course, you're the queen, Pam. So
I'm queen of my own world, that's for sure.
But anyway, yeah, I appreciate you stopping by. Like I said, people, this is, as long as the only one requisite that I have for being on here with me is that you have to be a Dolphins fan, and then we're going to build our team together. If you want a chance at, building your team, coming up on being in the blender with Shake, this blender here, get at me at, you can follow me at Twitter at ShakeMoney1978. And I'm also on IG, ShakeMoney1978. So hit me up if you want to become part of what we're doing here and in the blender, part of the Fury fam.
Share, like, and subscribe, everybody. Share, like, and subscribe. It's so great to see everybody that's come out for Shake because, oh my gosh, Brian Cox. Gee, you are so right. How do I leave Brian Cox out of anything? Brian Cox, oh.
He's my favorite.
He's like that attitude, that whole picture, that thing, that he had, that head thing.
Yeah.
And his picture with his, I won't do it, but his picture with the.
Yeah. And also his son was a Gator.
Absolutely. And he actually played pretty well. He did pretty good. He had some of that attitude, maybe a little too much attitude. I don't know. But Brian Cox, thanks for that reminder. Brian Cox. Jeez. Him and Incognito, same attitude.
Like
30 players, wonderful.
We're gonna do some shows live. Some shows are gonna be pre-recorded, but it's the same day, Thursdays at 7:00. And before we close it out next week, hopefully, if everything goes well, knock on wood, we're gonna get our homeboy Cap for Life is gonna be the second guest in the blender with me, Shake Money.
Nice, Cap. I'll tell you
man.
what, Shake, congratulations on your show. Thank you so much for having me here. Love all my dudes in the chat out there. And thanks, Larry, for doing this for Shake, because he's quality. He's quality Dolphin fan, quality person.
Thank you, Pam. Like I said, join us here for next week when our guest will be Cap for Life, man. I'm out. Peace.